Walking 3 times a week for 1 year can grow back 2% of your hippocampus, the part of your brain, about the size of your thumb, that files away your memories, and the same part that quietly shrinks a little every single year you don't move. That's not a supplement claim. That's a measured brain scan on real people, and I'm going to show you exactly how it happened. But here's the thing almost nobody explains properly. Walking gets treated like one generic box you tick for cardio. It isn't one thing happening to one organ. It's at least 4 different things happening to 4 completely different systems. Some shift within the first 10 minutes of stepping outside. Others completely rewrite your anatomy over the next year. Tonight I'm going organ by organ, with the actual research behind each one, because I'm tired of watching people get just walk more as advice with zero explanation of what that walk is actually doing inside them. Let's start with the brain, because this is the study that made me want to make this video in the first place. Back in 2011, a landmark trial that included researchers from the University of Pittsburgh and the University of Illinois put older adults on a simple program, moderate pace walking, 3 sessions a week, nothing extreme. A year later, they scanned everyone's brains. The walking group's hippocampus, again, think of it as your brain's filing room, the place that turns a conversation you just had into something you can still find next week, had grown by roughly 2%. The comparison group, who only did stretching, kept losing hippocampal volume the way hippocampi normally do as we age, shrinking instead of growing. Here's the part that turns this from a coincidence into a mechanism. The researchers also measured a protein in the blood called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You can picture it as fertilizer for brain cells, something that helps new connections take root. The people whose BDNF rose the most over that year were also the people whose hippocampus grew the most. Walking raises BDNF. BDNF builds the hippocampus. And the hippocampus isn't some minor structure. It's one of the very first regions that shrinks in dementia, which is exactly why a filing room that keeps building new drawers instead of losing them matters so much. But here's the twist. While your hippocampus is slowly rebuilding itself over months, the exact same walk is doing something completely different to your blood sugar within minutes. Inside your muscles, there's a mechanism called GLUT4, tiny docking gates sitting on the surface of muscle cells, whose entire job is to grab sugar out of your bloodstream after you eat, and pull it inside to be used for energy. Normally, insulin is the key that opens those gates. But a 2025 study published in the journal Scientific Reports found something specific about timing. When people walked for just 10 minutes immediately after eating, their after-meal blood sugar spike was blunted far more effectively than when they walked before the meal or waited 30 minutes to start. The immediate 10 minutes, right after the fork goes down, mattered more than the length of the walk itself. Here's why that matters if you deal with insulin resistance. When those gates get slow and sluggish to open, even with insulin knocking. Picture sugar as a delivery truck sitting outside a warehouse, because the loading gate is jammed shut. Walking doesn't wait around for that jammed gate to loosen up. Muscle contraction itself acts as a second key, forcing the gate open by hand, no insulin needed. Now, here's the mechanism that surprised me most while researching this video. Your gut is listening to the exact same walk, and it cares about something specific, not how far you walk, but how fast. A team out of the University of Pittsburgh followed 740 older men, average age 84, and measured 2 things: their walking speed and what was actually living in their gut. Now, why study octogenarians? Because they are the ultimate stress test for aging. If a mechanism shows up clearly in them, it's laying the groundwork for your health decades earlier. The researchers discovered that the men who walked faster had measurably more diverse gut microbiomes. a wider range of bacterial species, including the kind that produce short-chain fatty acids, which are byproducts that calm inflammation throughout your entire body. When the team tracked these men's walking speed over nearly a decade, the ones whose pace slowed down also saw their gut diversity decline right along with it, almost in lockstep. Picture your gut as a garden. Walking speed is like keeping the sprinklers running at full pressure. Let that pressure drop, even if you're still technically walking, just slower, and the variety of what's actually growing in that garden starts thinning out. The pace carries information the step count alone never could. Drop a comment below and let me know. Are you a casual stroller, or do you naturally power walk? Because here's the twist that ties all of this together. None of it means anything for how long you live if the pipes carrying your blood are getting stiffer every year. That's exactly where the fourth system comes in. Your arteries. Not your heart muscle itself, but the actual flexibility of the vessels carrying blood through your body, respond to walking in a way that shows up directly in your blood pressure numbers. A 2026 network meta-analysis published in Frontiers in Cardiovascular Medicine pooled and cross-checked results from dozens of trials. They found that aerobic training and walking produced the biggest improvements in arterial stiffness compared to other exercise types studied. And the blood pressure changes tied to it were massive. Drops in systolic blood pressure, that's the top number on your reading, the pressure when your heart actively pumps, of more than 10 points were common. A drop that size is typically linked to roughly a 20% lower risk of a major cardiovascular event, meaning a heart attack or stroke. Think of a stiff garden hose versus a supple one. Water still comes out of both, but the tap, your heart, has to work harder to push it through the stiff one, every single beat, for years on end. Walking is what keeps that hose supple instead of rigid. So here's what all four of these actually add up to, stitched into one protocol. Walk most days of the week, at a pace brisk enough that you could hold a conversation, but couldn't comfortably sing. That intensity is what's tied to both the hippocampus and the arterial stiffness findings. If you only have 10 minutes in a day, spend them right after your largest meal, since that's the window with the clearest evidence for flattening a blood sugar curve. And don't just count steps on a tracker, mind your actual pace, because the gut and artery research both point the same direction. Speed carries information that raw step count misses entirely. None of this requires special equipment, a gym membership, or a fitness watch. It requires a door, and about 10 minutes you are probably going to spend sitting down anyway. If you're wondering how a single walk manages to do all four of these things at once, the honest answer is that your body never treated these as four separate systems. It's one bloodstream, one nervous system, one set of muscles responding all at once. We just happen to study them and talk about them, one organ at a time. Here's the lasting line to take with you tonight. Your hippocampus isn't fixed. It's asking you for a walk. Every week on this channel, this is exactly the depth we go into. Not the headline version of exercise is good for you, but the real mechanism, organ by organ, with the actual study behind every claim. If that's useful to you, subscribe and tap the bell so the next one actually reaches you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.